I found a hotel receipt in my boyfriend's old gym bag, and in that exact moment, I found out he'd been lying to me for 4 months. My name is Jason Bennett, and 2 years ago, I thought I had finally found the person I was going to spend my life with. I want to tell you this story exactly as it happened, because maybe if you hear it, you'll see the warning signs before I ever did. I was 28, living in Denver, Colorado, working as an architect at a mid-sized firm downtown. My life wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. I had my routines, my early morning runs along the Platte River, my Thursday nights at trivia with my best friend Marcus Riley, my quiet Sundays where I'd catch up on sketches for work and pretend I wasn't lonely. That's where I met Tyler Griffin. It was late spring at a mutual friend's rooftop gathering. I wasn't even planning on going that night, but Marcus convinced me to come out instead of hiding in my apartment again. I remember standing near the drink table, feeling a little out of place, when someone handed me a beer and said, "You looked like you needed this." I turned around, and there he was, broad-shouldered, easy smile, the kind of presence that made a room feel smaller and warmer at the same time. "Thanks," I said. "I'm Jason." "Tyler," he said. "You go to school with Marcus?" "No, we've just been friends for years." "You?" "Cousins, actually. He drags me to these things sometimes." That was it. That was the whole beginning. No fireworks, no dramatic music. Just 2 guys on a rooftop in Denver. But something about him stayed with me the rest of that night. I kept replaying his laugh, the way he'd looked at me like he was actually curious about what I had to say. He texted me 2 days later, asking if I wanted to grab coffee. I said yes before I even finished reading the message. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long walks around the city that stretched late into the night. Tyler worked in marketing for a growing outdoor gear company, traveled some for conferences but always made time for me. He had this way of making you feel like you mattered, remembering small details like the fact that I couldn't stand olives or that my sister's birthday was in September. "You're different," he told me one night, about a month in. "Most guys I meet are either playing games or already checked out emotionally. You're just present." I fell for him hard. Maybe too hard, too fast. But when you've spent years wondering if you're the kind of person someone could build a life with, and then someone chooses you so completely, so warmly, it's hard not to let your guard down. Marcus was happy for me at first. He'd known Tyler for years as family, and he told me, "He's a good guy, Jason. Just don't lose yourself in this. Okay?" I remember there was something in the way he said it, not quite a warning, but not quite pure excitement either. I didn't think much of it then. I was too busy falling. 5 months in, Tyler asked me to move in with him. His place was bigger, closer to my office, and honestly, I barely spent nights at my own apartment anymore. It felt like the natural next step. I said yes without hesitation. Moving in together was everything I'd imagined. We'd cook dinner together, argue playfully about whose turn it was to walk the dog we just adopted, fall asleep on the couch during shows we never finished. He'd leave little notes on the fridge before he left for work trips. He'd call just to hear my voice when he was out of town. There was one night, about 7 months in, when he sat me down after dinner. He'd been quieter than usual that day, and I remember my stomach tightening, wondering if something was wrong. "Jason," he said, reaching for my hand across the table, "I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. I know it hasn't been that long, but I don't need more time to know what I want. I want a future with you. A house, stability, all of it." I felt my eyes sting. I told him I wanted that too, more than anything. Looking back now, I wonder if he meant it in that moment. Maybe he did. Maybe people can mean something with their whole heart and still betray it later. I don't know. What I do know is that for those 7 months, I was the happiest I had ever been in my life. But happiness, I would learn, isn't the same as safety. And love, no matter how real it feels, doesn't come with guarantees. There was a small moment, easy to miss, that I didn't think about again until much later. Tyler's phone had buzzed on the counter one evening, and a name flashed across the screen. Connor. He glanced at it, silenced it, and kept talking to me like nothing happened. "Who's Connor?" I asked, mostly out of idle curiosity. "Guy from the gym," he said, not even looking up, always trying to get people to join his training program. Kind of a lot. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He'd given me no reason not to. That was the first thread. I just didn't know yet that it was already beginning to unravel everything. For a while, Life felt like it was moving exactly the way it was supposed to. Tyler and I started talking seriously about our future. Maybe a bigger place, maybe a commitment ceremony down the road. He'd mention it sometimes, half joking, asking what kind of setting I'd want, whether I'd prefer something small or something bigger with family. I met his parents that summer at a cookout in their backyard. His mother, a warm woman named Diane, pulled me into a hug the moment I walked in and told Tyler, in front of everyone, that I was good for him. His father clapped me on the shoulder and said Tyler had never brought anyone home who made him laugh like I did. I remember feeling like I had finally found my place in someone else's family, not just my own. But somewhere around the 9-month mark, small things started to shift. Tyler started working later. Not dramatically later, just enough that I noticed. He'd come home distracted, quieter, sometimes checking his phone in a way that felt different than before. Not casual glances, but quick, almost guilty checks, like he was making sure I hadn't seen something. "Everything okay?" I'd ask. "Yeah, just busy," he'd say. "Connor's been helping me with a new training routine. It's a lot of back and forth. Connor again. Always Connor. I want to be honest with you. I did have doubts. There were nights I lay awake wondering why a gym friend's name kept coming up so often. Why his phone buzzed at odd hours. Why he'd started taking calls in the other room. But I trusted him. I loved him. And when you love someone, you want to believe the best about them, even when a small voice inside you is asking questions you don't want answered. Marcus noticed the change in me before I even fully admitted it to myself. We were at his place one night, a couple beers in, when he asked point blank, "Are you happy, man? Like, actually happy?" "Of course I am," I said too quickly. I told him it was fine. Work had just been stressful for both of us. He didn't push, but I could see in his eyes he didn't fully believe me. Marcus had always been able to read me better than I could read myself. The first real crack came on a Saturday night in late October. Tyler had told me he had a late training session with Connor that would run into the evening. I decided to surprise him. I picked up food from the barbecue place he loved, thinking we could eat together once he got back. I got to the gym parking lot a little early and decided to wait inside instead of sitting in the car. The front desk guy waved me through since I'd been there before. I walked toward the back studio where Tyler usually trained, and through the glass I saw him. Not doing squats or working with weights. Sitting on a bench next to Connor, close, laughing at something. Connor's hand resting on Tyler's knee just a beat too long before pulling away. It was quick. It might have meant nothing to anyone else watching. But something in my chest went cold. I didn't confront him that night. I told myself I was overreacting, that maybe it really was nothing, just two friends being close. I left before he saw me, drove home, and sat in my car outside our building for almost 30 minutes before I could bring myself to go inside. When Tyler came home that night, I asked him casually how training went. Good, he said. "Connor's really pushing me lately. Feeling stronger already." "Was it just you two?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. He paused just for a second, but I caught it. "Yeah, just us." "Why?" I wanted so badly to believe there was nothing more to it. And in that moment I chose to. Over the following weeks, though, the doubts kept building. Connor's name came up constantly. Tyler started taking his phone into the bathroom when he showered. He'd leave the room to take calls. Once, I glanced at his phone to check the time, and a message notification flashed across the screen from Connor. Something short, something that ended with a winking emoji. When I asked him about it, he got defensive for the first time in our entire relationship. "Are you seriously reading my texts now? I thought you trusted me." "I do trust you," I said. "I just don't understand the winking emojis from your training partner." "Tyler, it's just how we joke around. You're reading into things that aren't there." That was the first time he made me feel like I was crazy for noticing something that was right in front of me. It wouldn't be the last. Marcus sat me down again a few weeks later. This time he didn't ease into it. "Jason, I need you to actually hear me. Something feels wrong. You've changed. You're anxious all the time, you're always explaining his behavior for him. That's not what this is supposed to feel like." I remember getting defensive, telling him he didn't understand our relationship, that Tyler loved me, that we were talking about a future together. He didn't argue. He just said, "I hope you're right, but please, pay attention to what's actually in front of you." 2 nights later, everything changed. I was looking for a charger cord and found Tyler's old duffel bag shoved in the back of our closet, one he hadn't used in months. Inside, tucked into a side pocket, was a receipt from a hotel across town, dated 2 weeks earlier, a Friday night, the same night he told me he was staying late at the office to finish a project. My hands were shaking as I held it. I didn't say anything to him that night. I just sat with it, staring at that small piece of paper, feeling something inside me start to break. Slowly, quietly, the way ice cracks under weight before it finally gives way. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to Tyler, listening to him breathe evenly beside me, wondering how someone could sleep so peacefully while my entire world was quietly falling apart in my hands. The next morning, I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I did something I'm not proud of, but I needed answers. I looked through his laptop while he was in the shower. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. A message thread with Connor, going back nearly 4 months. Not just gym talk plans, hotel bookings. A message from Connor that read, "I hate pretending we're just training partners at the gym. I just want to actually be together already." I felt the floor disappear beneath me. When Tyler came out of the shower, I was sitting on the edge of the bed, laptop open, the hotel receipt placed beside it. "Jason, what are you doing?" His voice was sharp, defensive immediately. "How long, Tyler?" I asked. My voice didn't even sound like mine. "How long has this been going on?" I watched something shift in his face. The mask he'd worn for months starting to slip. For a moment, I almost hoped he'd deny it, that he'd have some explanation that made this all make sense. Instead, he sat down across from me and put his head in his hands. "It's not what you think," he said. "Then tell me what it is." The truth came out in pieces, each one worse than the last. It had started about 4 months earlier, a fitness conference, drinks after a networking event, one night that turned into something more. He told me it just happened. As if betrayal were a passive thing, something that occurred to him rather than a choice he made, over and over, every time he lied to my face. "Do you love him?" I asked. He hesitated too long before answering. "I don't know. I love you too, Jason. I got confused. Confused. Like I was a problem he hadn't solved yet, instead of a person who had built a life around him." I learned that Connor wasn't just a random training partner Tyler had fallen into something with. He'd been someone Tyler knew from years before, someone who resurfaced right around the time we moved in together. He knew about me the entire time. He knew we were planning a future together, and he chose to be part of tearing that apart anyway. I thought about every late training session, every excuse, every time I had defended Tyler to Marcus, to his own mother, to myself. I thought about the night I saw them at the gym and told myself I was imagining things. I thought about all the times I chose to believe him because the alternative was too painful to face. "How could you do this?" I asked him, my voice breaking. "I trusted you with everything. I moved my whole life in with you." "I know," he said. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you." But that's the thing about betrayal, intention doesn't undo the damage. Whether he meant to hurt me or not, he had lied to me for 4 months. He had let me plan a future with him while quietly building a separate life with someone else. The hurt was the same either way. I packed a bag that night and went to Marcus's apartment. I didn't say much when he opened the door. I just stood there, and he pulled me inside without asking a single question. Somehow, he already knew. That first week was the hardest of my life. I barely ate. I barely slept. I kept replaying our relationship over and over, searching for the exact moment things had gone wrong, as if finding it could somehow undo everything that came after. I questioned my own judgment constantly. How had I not seen it sooner? How had I let myself be so blind? Tyler called and texted for days. Apology after apology, promise after promise that it meant nothing, that he wanted to fix things, that he'd end it with Connor completely if I just gave him another chance. Part of me, the part that had loved him completely, that had imagined a whole life with him, wanted to believe he could change. That's the cruelest part of betrayal. It doesn't just break your heart. It makes you doubt whether you can trust your own feelings ever again. I remember sitting on Marcus's couch, staring at a text from Tyler that read, "I can't lose you. Please, Jason. I'll do anything." Marcus sat down beside me and gently took the phone from my hand. "You don't owe him anything," he said. "Not your forgiveness, not your time, not another chance. You get to decide what happens next, not him." For the first time since I'd found that hotel receipt, I let myself really cry. Not the quiet, controlled tears I'd been holding back, but the kind that comes from somewhere deep, somewhere that had been holding on to hope for far too long. I didn't know yet what I was going to do, but I knew one thing for certain. The version of me who had trusted so completely, so blindly, was gone. Something new was going to have to take his place. Took me 3 weeks to finally block Tyler's number. I want to be honest and tell you it wasn't easy, and it wasn't some clean, dramatic moment of empowerment like you see in movies. It was quiet. It was tired. I just woke up one morning and realized I was exhausted from carrying the weight of a relationship that had already ended the moment he chose to lie to me. I moved back into my own apartment, the one I'd almost given up entirely. It felt strange at first, sleeping in a bed that was only mine, cooking meals for one, rebuilding a life I thought I'd already left behind. But slowly, that strangeness turned into something else, something that felt almost like relief. Marcus was there for me through all of it. He'd show up with takeout on nights I couldn't bring myself to cook. He'd sit with me in silence when I didn't have words, and he'd remind me, gently but firmly, that what happened to me wasn't my fault. Betrayal, he told me once, says everything about the person who lies and nothing about the person who trusted them. I threw myself into work for a while. My architecture projects, which had taken a back seat during my relationship, became something I poured myself into again. I started running longer distances on weekends, training for a half marathon I'd always talked about but never committed to. I reconnected with old friends I'd drifted from without even realizing it, too absorbed in a relationship that had quietly consumed most of my life. About 2 months after the breakup, Tyler reached out one final time. Not a text this time. He showed up at my apartment unannounced, looking like he hadn't slept properly in weeks. I ended things with Connor, he said. Completely. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I had to try. I stood in my doorway, looking at a man I had once imagined spending the rest of my life with, and for the first time, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger, not heartbreak, but clarity. Tyler, I said, the problem was never just Connor. The problem was that you lied to me for months. You let me believe in a future that you were quietly tearing apart behind my back. Ending things with him doesn't undo that. I've changed, he said. I know I can be better. Maybe you can, I told him. But I don't have to be the one who finds out. I closed the door gently, not out of anger, but out of a kind of peace I hadn't expected to feel. For the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for an apology to fix something. I was choosing myself. The months that followed weren't perfect. Healing rarely moves in a straight line. There were still nights I missed the version of our relationship I thought I'd had, the version that I eventually realized existed mostly in the story I told myself. But slowly, piece by piece, I started to feel like myself again. Not the version of me who believed love meant ignoring red flags, but a stronger version who understood that real love doesn't require you to abandon your own instincts to keep it. I felt nothing when he told me that. No satisfaction, no lingering hurt. Just a quiet understanding that some people build their lives on foundations that were never solid to begin with, and eventually those foundations give way. I want to leave you with something I've learned, because I think it matters more than the details of what happened between me and Tyler. Betrayal doesn't happen all at once. It happens in the small moments you talk yourself out of, the receipts you explain away, the names that come up too often, the gut feelings you silence because believing them feels scarier than ignoring them. If something in you is asking questions, it's asking for a reason. I also learned that walking away from someone who betrayed you isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do, because it means choosing your own worth over the comfort of a familiar lie. Today, I'm not with anyone, and for the first time in a long time, that's completely okay. I'm rebuilding a life that belongs entirely to me, one where trust is something I give carefully, and self-respect is something I never negotiate again. If you've ever been where I was, sitting with a piece of evidence in your hands that changes everything you thought you knew, I want you to hear this. You will survive it. You will rebuild. And one day, the person who broke you will become nothing more than a chapter you needed in order to write a better story for yourself.